Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Decommunity Podcast. I'm Roy Bernheim. I'm one of the two co-founders of e-commerce, and I'm bringing you the inside scoop of everything brands, community, innovation. And today, I'm really happy to have Alexandra Reilly here. She's the head of marketing of TechTO and has had a lot of experiences across the range from building communities and innovation, being in the sports space. So we're super curious to hear more about this. Welcome, Alexandra. And I'd love for
Thank
you
you
to
for
introduce
having me.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm very grateful to be here and chat more about community and just what it means to me, and obviously to TechTO and tech in Canada in general. But been with TechTO for 3 years now. Crazy to think. I feel like I just joined. It has grown a lot since I've been part of the company and just doing really great things for the tech ecosystem in Canada. And I'm just super grateful to be a part of it and share more about how I got here. My journey is not linear, as many people's journeys probably aren't. And so I'm excited to share more and hopefully offer some insights to those who are curious and listening.
I'm excited too to dive into that and love to kick off with the first question of you already touched on the topic and we've been speaking a little bit about community generally, but I'd love to know in your words what community means to you.
That's a great question because I know it can mean so many different things to so many different people. But to me, I associate community as a safe space for people with common interests or common curiosity to come together and branch out. So learn from each other, learn from maybe those that inspire them, and also just maybe try something new in a place where other people are trying to do the same thing. So it's almost like creating a safe space for people to, I think, explore something that they might be curious about. And that's how I associate and picture community.
That's super interesting. I think safe space is also something that we bring up a lot when we talk to different brands, different clients, for them to also understand that it's really important for a lot of conversations to happen that might not be happening if they don't feel safe. So what does that mean, let's say on a more day to day in your role and how you're thinking about building? What does safe spaces mean?
For me, when I joined TechTO, first of all, I never thought I would be working in tech at all. That was just never something that crossed my mind. I knew very little about it. When I first joined, I had no idea what an angel investor even was. Like, it was basically ground floor. I was joining an organization where I just liked the mission and I thought the vision was very inspiring. And also, like, this is a testament to my co-founders. They created a space where I was joining a team to help them work towards something, but I didn't have to feel as though I had all the answers. I could ask just as many questions and also learn as I was trying to build this bigger thing with everyone. So from day one, that safe space, I think, really helped me evolve in my role as well. I started out doing just growth marketing. I joined to kind of help grow our newsletter and our subscriber base and just even the community as a whole in Toronto. And then now it's sort of expanded beyond that to, Vancouver, Montreal, things like that. But I'm very grateful that I was able to kind of come in and ask just as many questions as everyone else was. And I didn't have to feel as though I had all the answers. They wanted me to be curious. They wanted me to maybe even approach things from, I'm not a techie. I didn't have a tech background. I'm not, engineer focused. I don't really have that gift, as you will. So it was almost approaching it from the perspective of an outsider coming in and just how would maybe other people who aren't in tech want to look at our business and what would they want from it. So that safe space was helpful in the sense of allowing people to bring a new perspective. And I think that's very important. And that's also what I take with me when I look at what I want for our community too, is I think new perspective is very important. And I want people to feel safe with bringing that perspective.
So when you think about building that community, so the learnings and kind of even your own experiences
Mhm.
coming in, what does that materialize as? Like, are there rules or is it more a general vibe? How do you bring that to life, creating a safe space?
So I would say, again, that's a great question too, because it's something that I think communication can always be better at, just like informing people that this is a very safe space. But at TechTO, it's called an insiders program. So people can join like a membership tier and they can get maybe a little bit more involved on the inside. And there's a Slack community. And one of the first things we always say is, this is a respectful place for people to come and share, like if they're hiring, if they have an idea, what they're looking for. So I think we try and be very vocal, not necessarily rules, but I almost think it's just like an outline of respect around just what this place is and what it means. And also, of course, like with anything, there's always us, keeping an eye on like what's going on, what are the conversations, like is anything maybe getting to a place where it could be deemed as like disrespectful. But we're very fortunate that's never happened. I feel like people just come in with the common goal of they do want to help other people and they do want to learn from other people. So it makes it actually pretty easy in terms of trying to regulate and manage that safe space. But I think for us, it's just a lot of our communication. It's just first and foremost, when you join the TechTO community, whether it's you're paying for a membership or it's just free, you just want to come check it out and read the newsletter, check out what's going on in Slack, things like that. It's just, we're all here to learn. We're all here to enjoy. We're all here to meet new people. Like, let's just make it, at the end of the day, fun and safe for everyone. So I think that's just not necessarily the rule, but I think just the practice that we really put forward.
I like that. So it's a combination of safe and fun as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we take a step up and think about it a bit more globally now for
Yeah.
TechTO, what role does community play in your business, in what you do?
Yeah. So I think for us, the biggest thing is we're based in Toronto. That's where I am currently. I'm in Toronto. I know we were talking about we're kind of like across the world from each other right now doing this, which is great. But for us, I think TechTO, the goal globally, I guess, if you will, or just even cross country, how we think of it is it's still connecting people. And at the end of the day, that is the goal, whether we're connecting people in person here at our events or someone is able to make a connection to someone living across the country or even just living in the US, but maybe they are, a Canadian founder and they're currently headquartered somewhere else. For us, the most important thing is always TechTO is sort of the hub that I guess like births these connections and helps connect those people that a lot of them are not living in the same city and are not even maybe living in the same country. There's a lot of relationships that have been formed just through joining, asking questions, and just meeting interesting people. And I think that's the cool thing about TechTO is obviously it is incredibly prominent on the virtual side, but also, of course, the in-person side as well. So that's just always been the most important thing. It's just we want to be the relationship builder, the connector, the thing that, brings people together, whatever their goals are, and just helps them achieve those goals one way or another.
What is it that you like within that? Because it sounds also like there is work involved,
Mm-hmm.
connecting people. So what is it that drives you forward?
We even talked about this too, just what you were saying about you enjoy getting to meet really interesting people through your job. And I would say that for me is number one. I think as much as I like to think I'm a pretty worldly person and I've seen a lot of the world and I've experienced a lot of things, a really great part of my job and just the community aspect is the amount of people that I have gotten to speak to, whether it's, partnerships with people that are located in India. Obviously, like the time zone differential is a lot, but I don't know if I would ever get to meet these individuals or work with these companies doing anything else. And I think whenever I do get to work and meet new people, I'm always learning. I'm always learning from myself. And I think it comes back to what I said about just feeling as though it's safe to ask questions and safe to not have all the answers. That drives me is the fact that I am personally meeting interesting people who I'm not trying to build, a business. I'm not a founder, working and grinding to try and get fundraising or seed round or things like that. But just even for me to know that I got to talk to someone who lives a completely different life than me, is working towards completely different things. And even though I am a work from home and a virtual company, arguably, I think I'm meeting more or just as many people as those who would just be out in person all the time in an office. So that's one of the things that drives me. And obviously, I love hearing that people made connections through TechTO and that's how they found a co-founder, or that's how they, landed their first fundraise or things like that. We hear success stories all the time, and those are just super meaningful to know. Even though I wasn't directly maybe part of it, I work for TechTO and it's something I work hard for. So that makes me very happy. It's very rewarding.
Yeah, I believe that. Seeing people like those connections happen, that's really beautiful. And in those 3 years, I mean, that's a lot of time. And I'm sure you had a lot of experience of things that you saw worked really well and others that maybe went some other way. What do you feel like when we think about this like community and this ecosystem that you're really building from all the ideas and initiatives and projects? What are the learnings you would say that what you feel are really the things that have worked that kind of work on their own? Like people join and might even invite people to join. Is there some kind of playbook or pattern that you've started seeing?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think a lot of it has evolved, and we've learned a lot from what makes people happy and also what are people most looking for and curious about. And I think that has also shifted like pre-COVID and post-COVID as well. I think there was a huge shift in, obviously, our events are very popular, our in-person events. People really strive to make time to attend those. I think what is really amazing to me is how many new people at every event. We always ask this one question. We go, how many people have never been to a TechTO before? And half of the room puts their hand up. And we're always just blown away by that's just word of mouth. That's just people who've gone before, enjoyed, got something out of it, and have encouraged someone else to go. And it is always half the room that raises their hand, being like, this is my first time. And the people that come and talk to us and say, like, I'm going to bring my roommate next time. I'm going to bring my husband next time. I'm going to bring my friend next time because this was just great. And I'm so happy that I just decided to go and took the initiative. So I think our biggest learning is what makes people want to keep coming back, because TechTO's event, I guess, playbook, and I just speak to events maybe specifically because that seems to be where we really bring people together and where those connections are made most prominently. But in terms of the playbook, I think it's people like the events. They've sort of been how they are for the last TechTO's 10 years old this year, which is also pretty amazing. It's been around for 10 years. It's always been an element of we want you to network, we want you to meet someone new, but also there's an opportunity for we have a community open mic where people can stand up and they have 10 seconds to say like, hey, I'm looking for a job currently, or I'm looking for a technical co-founder right now, or I'm currently have this problem and I'm really trying to solve it. If anybody has any ideas, like come find me after, I'll be by the snacks or whatever, just things like that. And I think people just truly have resonated with the format. So I think it's also the method of if it's not broken, don't fix it. But at the same time, what is encouraging people to want to invite their friends and to have those like referrals, if you will. So that is, I think, the biggest part of our playbook is just why do people keep coming back and why are people encouraging others to maybe try it for the first time? So a lot of it is word of mouth. And just when we talk to people in person or we get feedback, it's a lot of crowdsourcing, but I would say the feedback tends to be the same, that it's just, they know what to expect. It's a traditional TechTO and it's just encouraging you to get out of your shell a little bit, but also, you can just sit back and take it all in at the same time if that's what you want.
Interesting. And feedback, that's actually a great keyword.
Mm-hmm.
How do you collect that feedback? How do you think about feedback?
I mean, a little bit like what I had just like mentioned, it tends to be like conversational, word of mouth. I think people are very open to, again, I think also my co-founders, they're almost like figures in itself. Like when they are at our events, people really want to come up and they want to talk to them. And it's funny because my name is Alex and my co-founder's name is also Alex. And so sometimes I think they come and they approach me and they're like, oh my gosh, Alex, it's so nice to meet you. And I always have to say, I think you're looking for the other Alex. But again, grateful that they're just excited to talk to you, excited to tell you what they like, also what they don't like, which is equally as welcomed because we're doing this for the community. We're doing this for the betterment of them and for their goals. So we want to know what they like and what they don't like. And a lot of this feedback also comes inbound as well. So we have a newsletter and we always say, reply, share your thoughts. And I think people are very open to whether it's social media, they can email us. We have a general like info@email where people send us feedback all the time. And it's something that we really value because it just helps us improve the way in which we are doing things and the way in which we're growing our community, but also making sure those that have been with us for X amount of years and feel like they're getting something out of it are also fulfilled and feel like they're reaching their goals. So I would say it's conversational and then also just via like email, inbound, social media, things like that. But we're very encouraging for feedback all the time.
And there, what do you think, like, let's say 5 years from now, how would you like this community to be, to look like? Where would you want it to live, let's say? How would you like to manage that community? Do you have a goal where you want to bring this to?
For sure. We definitely have some big goals. So I will say, just looking maybe pre-COVID, we had quite a large community built out in Vancouver and also a very massive one built out in Montreal. And I will say with the kind of full stop that happened with in-person events and just life in general when COVID was a huge factor in our lives, we sort of did see a taper off of like those communities. So I think if I ultimately could look at where I saw TechTO in 5 years and what I wanted it to be, we would be fully cross Canada. So again, we are very, very well known, prominent here in Toronto. That's kind of where we started, where we built like the OG kind of TechTO goers are, a lot of them are here. But to me, it would be brand awareness just across the country. We would be seen as like an absolute Canadian Canadian-wide fixture versus just maybe a massive audience in Toronto that's trying to expand. And of course, I would see our internal team growing as well. So being able to, I think, kind of separate some of like these portions of even my role or our co-founders' roles to be able to just have a greater team kind of achieving this. And I would even think it would be great to have dedicated, almost like influencers or representatives in certain provinces. So we could have dedicated folks living in Vancouver, actually boots on the ground in Vancouver who work for TechTO, who are helping to make sure that that community is just growing and fulfilled and getting what they need. And someone out in Halifax doing the same thing. You could have a team out there. So I think for me, it would just be absolute cross-country domination, essentially, and just also having the physical team in those places that's able to, bring those events together and talk to people, get feedback, be like the present representative of TechTO in those places. Because it is hard when our team is based in Toronto. And of course, we travel out to our events. I'm going to Montreal next week for our event, but it would be valuable to have someone that lives and breathes the tech scene in those places, right? And could just offer probably even more valuable insights than I would have, because I don't live in Montreal and I'm not part of those coffee chats and I don't see what's going on the weekends and those meetups and things like that. So that would be my goal. And I think where I could see things evolving for us.
And have you, spinning this forward, when we think in terms of community and the team, have you already ever done or thought about involving community members to start becoming and taking up some roles in some way within the team?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we call them like community leads, and we tend to have these for our vertical events. So we'll have marketing specific, still TechTO, but TechTO marketing, TechTO sales, TechTO retail, like things like TechTO health. And we call them a community lead, where it's someone that is in that industry, built a business in that sector. And also they will aid us in finding speakers, because it's one of those things where we do have obviously a great kind of like playbook or black book, if you will, of like contacts and people we can reach out to who have worked with us before that we can bring on to help us host and speak on these panels. But it is helpful to have people that actually are working in health tech, or people that are working in marketing, or people that are working in sales, especially tech specific to all of these. For example, like we have a travel event that's happening tonight and it's travel tech specific. So our host is, he's built a travel business within the tech sector, and all of the hosts and the panelists he's found are specific to that vertical. So we do have that, but again, we need to be doing more of them. And we also need to be just expanding and building upon like these community leads, if you will.
Wow, so this is already happening basically, and now it's a way of how to really scale this up from what it sounds.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts around how to do this? Like, are you thinking in terms of rewards or more like titles or things like that? Or do you have specifics?
That's also a great question. I think the good reward in itself is people tend to just be very excited to also give back, because a lot of these founders will tell you that, they couldn't have built their business or gotten to where they are without other people helping them and other people sharing their advice and feedback with them. So they're honestly like, I think the reward in itself for a lot of them is just they want to give back, and they do obviously align with what we're trying to do at TechTO in the sense of just doing great things for those that are working and building in tech in Canada. And so I think, to me, if I really wanted to look at what would get more people to join, I think it's also just going to be leaning on our community leads to maybe bring in their friends or other founders that they've worked with as a way to go, hey, we don't really do a vertical for this event. Like I would love to bring, for example, entertainment back. And again, it's just finding like who would be the best person to take the lead on this, who would bring the most, valuable folks to share the most valuable insights within the entertainment space in tech. So I think it's just more about, we want to make sure we're finding the right people. And I think that also just comes from leveraging who we do have, and also just leveraging, the community itself. So like maybe broader announcements, inviting more people to share, we want to bring this vertical back. Who do you think we should be engaging with that would have great insights into that space specifically?
Yeah, so again, getting this feedback loop in.
Lots of feedback. Yeah.
Yeah. And when we think in terms of so we mentioned different platforms, the email, the socials, etc.
Yeah.
What do you feel like are the ones that resonate the most?
I think it depends on the kind of content that a person's trying to look for. So we have quite a large newsletter subscriber base. We have over 70,000 subscribers across the country that read our newsletter. And those tend to be a great place if you're looking to see maybe the startups in Canada that you haven't really heard of yet that are pretty up and coming. We tend to do a profile once or twice a week on just these upcoming companies, just doing really cool things. We'll share important resources, updates on our events, things like that. So I think if you're just looking for a very easy, quick, digestible read, no more than 5 minutes, the newsletter is a great place. But we also do have podcast content as well. So a little bit more in depth where we interview, like for example, we have a series called The Founder's Journey where we'll have founders on and we kind of go in depth into, yes, of course, like building their business, but also like what makes you tick? What have you learned? Like what was just the most valuable thing for you as a founder that is maybe not something you would just typically share, like in a normal conversation? What would you want to share to if you're just having a coffee with someone and they asked you, what advice would you give me? I'm trying to build this. So I think it tend to be a little bit more personal, in depth. So I would say in terms of what people get the most value out of, I think it's a combination of both. And I think it also is just dependent on what you're looking for. We do have a large amount of people that read the newsletter because they're looking for a job, and we share jobs all the time. Or investors that are also just like, hey, this was an interesting profile that you shared and they're, pre-seed, and I'm going to take a look into it because I had no idea they were even out there, that they were on my radar or anything like that. But then of course you have those on the flip side, those people who are like, well, I have an idea. I've done all that. I have something, but now I'm just like, I just need advice. Like I just want to hear from someone who's done this. So then maybe more of that in-depth founder content as well. So I think it's just two sides to the coin. It depends if you're just looking for quick informative stuff or maybe more in-depth, like, oh, that's very inspiring. I didn't know that, or I didn't know it. That's what they had to do to get there.
Oh, so it's really what I'm hearing here is the mix that makes it work.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the hardest parts of my job is, of course, like you can't please everyone. I know they tell you this just in life, you can't please everyone, but we do have such a diverse community. We have people who are just brand new to Canada, just newcomers to the country in itself, just even looking to meet others and just find a job. Maybe they don't even know they want to work in tech, but they're like, hey, there's all these jobs. Interesting. I'm going to take a look into it. And then you, on the flip side, have very established people who have built something big and just want to continue to, again, like build their own database of people and meet even potential customers, let alone investors. And then of course you kind of have other folks, which just like people like me who work in tech, who just want to stay informed and just want to know the landscape across the board. So I would say, yes, it's very diverse, but of course we're trying to figure out a way to kind of tailor to everyone and make as many people happy as possible, of course.
Amazing. And I'm just looking at time. And with that, I wanted to ask you also where people could find you or TechTO and all those different formats.
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. Alexandra Reilly is my full name. I would love, to talk to you and to hear your thoughts about just TechTO, what we're building, your experience with community or tech in general. And then, of course, you can learn everything about TechTO. We're on all the social media outlets. Our website is techto.org. I love your feedback. I encourage it. I want to know the things you're looking for, the things you're maybe seeing too much of and want less of. But yeah, please just reach out. I'd love to meet you. As I said, I love meeting interesting people. Hope to make even more connections.
So nice. Well, thanks so much, Alexandra, for sharing all your insights that you gathered across the years and speaking to so many different people. It's been really, really, truly super interesting to hear, even very tangibly, how you're building and how you're thinking about community. So thank you so much for all those insights.
Thank you for having me.
Amazing. Chat very soon.
Bye.